Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our finals preview episode of the Hustle and Hoops podcast. Special edition coming with you on a Monday. Happy Memorial Day to everyone in the United States. We're back with the whole crew, fellas. How we doing today?
What's up, boys? Game 7 was pretty good last night, despite what Shane Baum may say or think.
We'll be talking about
We'll
it.
be getting into that later, but I enjoyed the game, and I prefer the Celtics in the finals, so I'm pretty excited.
Yep. Jacob, how we doing today?
What is going on, everybody? It's a nice Monday. The sun is shining. We had some great basketball recently, and I'm ready to get into it.
And Dove, as always.
We're chilling. Let's get into it. Let's get straight into it.
First of all, I just want to start off quick personal anecdote. Yesterday, I went to the grocery store and Barnes & Noble's looking for the Cade Cunningham Slam magazine, and neither of them sold it.
Why would you think you would have found that there?
Have you never been to a Barnes & Noble's or
No, but all the new Slam covers, they're all online and get sold out, and you have to buy them through resale.
That's how Slam works now?
That's how all limited items work now.
Is Slam a limited item? Like anyone can buy
covers, Slam covers. I feel like
I remember going to the store and buying Slam magazine.
I had the Slam magazine subscription. I would get like 6 to 9 magazines a year, and I just canceled it. So
yeah,
pretty unfortunate. Wish I could have the Cade Cunningham.
I
have the shirt on the way.
Possibility.
Wow.
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to go to a bookstore that sells magazines. Like, you've been to a Barnes & Noble, they have a giant magazine section. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to say that they would have Slam magazine there.
You sound like a customer at my job right now. It's not out of the realm of possibility that you guys are a shoe store, so you should have Air Forces. It's like, no, it's not how it
but
works.
If you don't, I get it, but it's not out. Like, you should have Air Forces if you're a shoe
right,
store.
But the way things work now is no one wants anyone to have anything. So as soon as something goes on sale that people know someone will want and will resell, they're gonna buy them up and resell them. That's my assumption. Because when I bought the shirt, a lot of people were saying on Twitter that a lot of the stuff was selling out. I don't know if that was the case for the actual magazine, but if you look on their website, you might be able to just buy it there.
No, I'm sure I could, but I'd rather just go pick it up at the store.
Of course.
And I don't think that magazine is selling for more than face value resale. I don't think that's just my opinion, but just thought I'd
maybe it's just all online purchases. Maybe it's an online only thing.
It's possible. Just upset me a little bit because I did try. I wanted the magazine, but
shouts out Barnes & Noble.
They're still up there, Barnes & Noble's. They just redid the one near my house, so it was very nice. I haven't been in there since they redid it, but
no free promo.
Oh yeah. Fuck Barnes & Noble's. All right, so the big news out of the NBA this past week, Darvin Ham, perhaps one of the more unlikely head coaching candidates, just based on who else was being interviewed for the Lakers job, has been hired. LeBron James tweeted his endorsement of him. First-time head coach, NBA veteran, former Detroit Piston. Shouts out 0304 Pistons. We're not going to we'll get into the Lakers offseason a lot more in the offseason, but immediate reactions to the Darvin Ham hiring. What do you guys have to say?
I mean, you're getting a guy with a lot of experience. He's been on a myriad of different successful teams, relatively successful teams. I don't know. I really am not sure what presence during the regular season, which seems to be right now the main focus for a head coach with the Lakers, because if you can't do shit in the regular season, I don't know. I'm curious. That's really it. I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's well said. I mean, I've heard of him. I wasn't I didn't know him that well before the news of him becoming a head coach came into the news, but I like it. The team likes it, so we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, and we didn't see that this signing was coming because I don't know if anybody outside the organization would say they did, but we knew they probably weren't going to get a big name. We've seen how their recent coaches have been treated and run out of the city. So there wasn't that much popularity for the job, and seeing them go for a guy with a nice resume, but also not as much of a household name as the other candidates they were looking at really makes sense for them because I don't know. I think whatever team LeBron is on, he's really the end all be all. Like a coach could draw something up, but I feel like more times than not, if that's not what LeBron wants, they're not going to run it. So I don't know. I think for this young guy to get a chance as first time head coach, it's a good opportunity. So see if he can energize the team and make them gel.
Yeah, I think out of the candidates, it was the right decision. It was Kenny Atkinson, and who was the
Terry
other
Stotts.
one? Terry Stotts, yeah. So I definitely think it was the right choice out of the 3 finalists.
Yeah, I mean, I really thought like they would like go with a guy with head coaching experience like Terry Stotts or Kenny Atkinson. I thought Kenny Atkinson deserves another head coaching job after the Nets. Like I didn't think he did
he
a
was a
poor
good
job
coach.
with the Nets.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, I think Darvin Ham, being a former player, a recent retiree, he's got a lot of good experience with the Bucks, winning championships. I think that's a guy that LeBron is going to get along with a lot better because let's be honest, like LeBron, like, yeah, he needs a coach to give him direction, but there needs to be a mutual respect there. And like the former players, the guys LeBron has competed against, like I don't think LeBron's going to give Terry Stotts that respect that he might give Darvin Ham, like just like the players code sort of thing. But we'll definitely get into this topic more in the offseason. The other topic that we just haven't covered yet that came out recently is the whole saga with the Denver Nuggets. Their president of basketball operations and former GM, Tim Connelly, leaving the team to go to the Minnesota Timberwolves, where he signed an $8 million per year deal, which includes equity in the team. He gave the Nuggets an opportunity to up his compensation. They said no, so he left. Tim Connelly has been at the forefront of a lot of their basketball decisions over the past 10 years, including bringing in Joker, MPJ, Jamal Murray, everything. So it definitely is a big loss for them. It's rumored that Calvin Booth will be stepping in as president of basketball operations. He's been their general manager. And it's also rumored, according to Shams, that Jokic is okay with this and is still 100% signing his Supermax contract, biggest contract in NBA history, this upcoming offseason. So, I mean, front office stuff is what it is. Any thoughts on this?
So it was a good sign. I mean, you're the expert on the Nuggets stuff. I mean, you've known who Tim Connelly is since
I met him.
Probably
Very nice
third
guy.
grade. So you know, I trust what you have to say about this. This seems like a very good move for the Timberwolves, getting someone, who, and this is not saying that the Timberwolves don't have this right now. We don't know, but getting someone who has experience and has a proven track record of, finding talent and bringing talent in. So it's definitely a big thing, and very good for them and good for Tim Connelly getting a bag.
Yeah, you got a bag. Yeah, I mean, it's a good move. It's a good move for them. It's an unfortunate move for the Nuggets because I don't think he wanted to leave. But when there's a team offering him that amount of money, that amount of equity, to do the same job over there, and your gajillionaire owners aren't gonna up your pay in response to that, I'm not like it's totally understandable why he would leave. And it kind of shows like the Nuggets have always been a little bit step behind. They don't go into the luxury tax despite being close to contending. And it kind of shows that their cheapness. Like obviously Calvin Booth is a very capable replacement from what we've seen in his role as GM, but if they want to win a chip, they gotta get more expensive. They gotta stop being cheap. And
So
the Cronkies own the team. Like they're gajillionaires.
They pay What's Jamal Murray's contract looking like? Is
Max.
he?
You signed a
big?
max.
So they have him, they have MPJ, and they have Jokic, and they have Aaron Gordon, and they're still not in the luxury tax.
Yeah.
That's wow. Wow.
'Cause, I
And
mean,
we'll
how
get-
much are they realistically paying anyone else on that roster?
So
except
you got
for-
three
Nothing.
guys making
Will
pretty
Barton.
much
Like, yeah,
30,
that's it.
like 30 to 40, because like the contract that Jokic and Murray signed, like they signed them years ago already. So like their max contract, like the scaling, like it's not as bad. Like the last year of Jokic's this year contract will be like less than the first year of the next one, you know?
Right.
So, and that's saying something with like how back-ended contracts work. So yeah, they haven't gone into the luxury tax, but they have to.
Yep.
They have to if they want to win.
Yeah. I think that's really all that could be said about
Yeah.
this movement.
Let's get into the meat and the bones of the show, shall we? This is the entree, and then for dessert, we're gonna preview the finals. So there was a game 7 last night, Heat Celtics. First thing I got to say off the bat, and this is going to lead to an argument. I want it to lead to an argument. I thought that game was not entertaining. Personally, my personal opinion, I thought that game was not entertaining in the slightest. It was fairly close. And if you compare it to the first 6 games, I can understand why you can say it was entertaining. But if you can look at it independently, individually as a basketball game, like looking at it as a basketball game, that game was shitty. And I understand there's a couple people here who don't feel the same way. So we've talked about it over text, but we haven't been able to express our thoughts and words with our voices
In person.
Yeah. So I'd love to argue about this and prove to you why this game was not entertaining.
I mean, it was the only game this entire series that was within 5 points. And from what we saw, it was blowout after there was one game that was within 10, but it wasn't within 5. Like it was the one game this series after 6 basically blowouts, 5 blowouts and 1 close-ish game. I don't really think you can expect anything else. Like we had a good finish. A lot of the game was sloppy. There was a lot of missed shots, and a lot of the role players were not playing that well on the Heat. But with less than 2 minutes left, there was a point in the game where we did not know who was going to win. And that's honestly all I could ask for from that game.
That's fair. That's fair.
So I got a couple things I need to say.
Yeah, please.
Dude was
please.
ready to unload. All
Please.
right, go ahead.
I can
Fully,
take it.
I just can't see how you can say from an independent perspective that this game wasn't entertaining, because taking in all the factors that they've been playing all season, they're all injured, and they've just gone through 2 grueling rounds, and it's game 7. So taking in all those factors, I think we had a great game. I don't know what you guys were expecting. Like even in the independent perspective of just one basketball game, I don't know how much better it could have been other than made more shots. It's not as sloppy, but that's what it is. That's game 7s. They're not going to be pretty. It's always going to be a grinder. And Mindy said this was the only game within 5, and the Celtics had a 17-point lead in that game, which the Heat kept clawing back, and then the Celtics went up, and then it was game of runs. There were so many runs, and that last possession, I mean,
that I'm gonna have to interrupt and just say it wasn't really a game of runs. It was more just Boston would go ahead.
It was
at
like
the, at the start of
runs.
Boston
It was a game of
got ahead.
runs.
Boston got
It
ahead at
was.
the start of the game, and then the Heat would slightly catch up and make it like a 10-point or sometimes a single
Yes,
digit
they would
lead.
make a run.
And then
they go
right,
on, like,
Celtics
but it
would
wasn't
make
like,
a run.
it wasn't like a thing where it was ever, oh, the Heat are gonna make a run to get back into
The
it. It was
only
just-
time
it
the
was just
Heat
they're
had a
closing the
realistic
gap a little
chance
bit.
was in the last 2 minutes
I
fully-
disagree fully.
to take the lead, in my
That's-
opinion.
They went into
that's-
halftime down 6.
And it still didn't really feel
It
like
did not feel like
it
they
was
were
What do you
down.
mean?
It felt like
it
it
was
further
close
away.
though.
They were
but
down
I didn't say-
17, and they
Okay,
went
hold
on
on.
fat runs.
I'm going to clarify before we get too deep into this that I am not on really either side. I'm kind of on the fence here. I enjoyed the game, but I thought as a whole it still was kind of ass and not really what, I was hoping to get, but I don't care too much because it was still an enjoyable game and I got to watch a game 7 between two good basketball teams.
Let me ask you this. Is an 8-0 run a run?
I'm not saying
Say yes or no.
okay, I
Yes
should
or no?
rephrase.
Just yes or no.
Yes, it's a run, but I should rephrase what I was saying before.
He's talking momentum switches, which they were.
I was saying that to me, when your runs are you just slightly closing the gap, and then every time you get it to single digits or that 10-point mark, they just
A run doesn't necessarily
blow that back
yeah,
up
bad
again.
in the game though.
Doesn't necessarily qualify for me as like
The Heat were making runs. They made numerous
significant,
8-0 runs, but they couldn't put together 2 8-0 runs in a row to make it a 16-0 run.
Because the Celtics also went on runs. It was a game of runs.
Yeah,
but you can't do that if you start.
But when it was
the
a game of runs, it means one team was performing so bad. Like the Heat at one point, I think it was in the fourth quarter, missed 11 straight shots across 4.5 minutes. Like, if you say
unacceptable
that like that happened in a game, you'd be like, how the hell?
Depot was selling. He was
that
taking
also
way
happened
too
in
many
last game
shots.
in the first 8 minutes. Too.
Marcus Smart was also selling. He got lucky. He got bailed with the Jimmy 3 and then made his free throws to cover it all up. But the Heat, they went down early. They were down like 15-17. They would make a run to cut it to 10, and then the Celtics would respond with a run of their own. Therefore, it was a game of runs.
I figured out what I was trying to say. It's not that I didn't see the runs, whatever. It's that I just didn't believe. Personally, I didn't believe every time they went on those runs that they would actually capitalize on that and turn it into a lead. That's what
you were just confident in the Celtics.
No, not really. Not really.
Every time they pulled within 10, I would be like, oh shit, they have a chance. Maybe we got a game. But the Celtics responded.
The crowd would.
I felt that way in the fourth quarter.
They just missed a shot. But I have two more things I want to comment.
Your argument's fair.
And not to say that I didn't enjoy the first three. I just didn't think they were close.
Say what he's going to say. We got that point.
Two more things. The Max Strus called off 3.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah. No, we're still on
leave that. That's in a bit.
And then the last possession.
Yeah, that's
we'll save those. We'll save those.
Oh, we're just talking like thoughts right now.
No, this is the game entertaining.
It was very entertaining.
You and Minden
Scott
think
Foster
that it
made
was
it so.
entertaining.
They made
thinks
it so.
it
Okay.
wasn't.
Here's my main points. The game was horribly officiated, horribly on both sides. And that led
I
to
disagree
players.
on both sides.
I see Minden.
Calls the Heat were not getting.
I
think the Celtics would come right down and get an and one.
I think Scott Foster was consistently horrible. Free throw disparity was 24-24. Fouls overall 26-18. Boston committed 26. The Heat committed 18. So I really don't see, like, I think they were consistently awful, but that also means that they were awful in the sense that they were also missing calls. Like, not just the calls they were making were bad. They were missing obvious calls.
So many,
like, on both sides, which led to players complaining more and flopping more, especially Kyle Lowry, but he's always done that. There were no ties, no lead changes. The only time it got inside one possession was inside the last 45 seconds, which that makes for an entertaining game. I'll give it that. Like, it did get to that point. I didn't think it would. But no ties, no lead changes. Like, 5 and 8 missed free throws on both sides. Both teams, the Heat shot 6 of 30 from 3, double-digit turnovers on each side. That, like, if you look at that as from an independent standpoint, I understand, like, compared to the games we've been getting, like, the recency bias of the games have not been, like, efficient. They've been sloppy, like, across both conference finals. I just am looking at it for, like, if someone told you, yeah, there's a game with no ties or lead changes, double-digit turnovers, double-digit missed free throws, horrible officiating. Like, you wouldn't say that's an entertaining game.
It
You would
was
say
the best
that
game
game
of the
sounds
series.
shitty. And I understand what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with that. You can say it probably was the best game of the series, but that doesn't make it an entertaining game. Like, it was just like, in my opinion, like that's like I don't know if I'm conditioned based on the first couple rounds. Like it's like was better, but
No, the first couple rounds spoiled us, but that doesn't mean this game wasn't entertaining. I think it was a great game.
You
Like,
saw the entire game. The Heat were down, and
I watched
Jimmy
from
was
tip to
clawing
tail.
his way back into the game the entire time.
like it's kind of like
and
what
he
Doug
had a
was
shot
saying.
he basically had a shot to win the game.
They
Yeah, and he
never
wasted it.
they
Did.
the only
And he
time
missed
they
it.
the only time they cut it to that was inside the last minute, and that's because the Celtics were also horrible. Like, both teams were missing open threes, taking terrible shots because they wanted foul calls. Like, it was a sloppy game. I just expect better from two teams in the conference finals. I understand the conference finals were not very entertaining as a whole. So when you have a game that's within like 15 points for the entire game, it's like you can't take that for granted. But as an independent whole, like, if this wasn't a game 7, if this was a game 2 or game 3, like, I don't think you'd be saying like, yeah, that was entertaining. It's just because of the overall stakes. It's win or go home. It's game 7. Like, it's like, oh yeah, like grit and grind. But like, as a whole, as a basketball game,
like you said, it's win or go home. And Mark Jackson said this best on the call last night. He said, when you go home tonight, all these players who lose, they're going to look back and think, was there a chance that I could have stepped on the gas pedal even harder? And you didn't want to go home regretting that. So all these missed shots, these sloppy plays, I understand that because they're trying, they're going 110. Like, this is win or go home, like you
work
just
smarter,
said.
not harder.
Well, you don't want to regret anything and look back and say, "Oh, I could."
Oh,
have
I'm regretting all those horrible shots that I took. I could have looked for a better shot. That's something
don't
I'd be
know.
saying if I were in those possessions. Like, if
If
I'm
you're
rewatching,
missing open
if
shots,
I'm the Heat and the Celtics and I'm rewatching that game from like a coaching video room perspective, I'm like, we played like ass. We didn't deserve to win. Both teams
I
are
think
probably
from the
saying that.
Heat's perspective, you're more so frustrated with the role players. Like, if you got just even a little more output,
One
from
role
that,
player.
Yeah.
literally
player.
Okay.
just anything, you
let's
probably win.
So let's start talking
Let-
about the overall game. And let's, Duval, you wanted to talk about the Max Strus 3. That's the first thing. Let's just talk about that first. The nullified 3 taken away.
For those who
Yeah.
don't know, early was it the third quarter?
What?
Very
Early in the third quarter, Max Strus hits a 3.
Yeah.
And
Sidestep 3. Robert Williams rolled his ankle on it.
and a few minutes later, 3 to 5 minutes later, all of a sudden the score just goes down by 3 for Miami, and there's some confusion. And we hear on the broadcast that the NBA officials in Secaucus went back and looked at the play and decided that Max Strus's right foot, left foot, whatever, left heel was out of bounds on the 3-point shot. So they removed the shot. They got rid of the 3 points and notified everyone afterwards. What do we think about
Well,
that?
I want to hear what Duval had something to say about it 5 minutes ago. So he's definitely
Oh yeah.
like,
My bad, dude.
yeah.
I mean, like we said, it's this is a game of runs, and that was right as the third quarter was getting underway. The fans were getting back into their seats, and that was if I'm not mistaken, that was to cut the lead to like 4 or 5, and then it went back down to like 8 or 9, and then it got blown up. So I mean, it's just tough because we saw the replay, and there's a real argument for the Heat saying that his foot didn't touch. I mean, the whole argument was if his heel touched, because he was on his toes, so the heel touched. But on the review, it didn't look like it touched. And I mean, the end game was a 4-point game, so I mean, you give him that 3, it's still a 1-point game, but I was going to say that leads into the last possession with Jimmy. Like you say, if he's dribbling down that court and they're not down 2, if they're not down 2 and they're down 1, It could have been way different. Like he might have driven on Al, might have pulled out past it. I don't know, but
it would have been different for sure.
yeah.
And something else that wouldn't have happened that I didn't really like from, must have been Spoelstra who called it, but when they were down by 4 with 11 seconds left after Marcus Smart hit his 2 free throws.
You talking about the Strus 3?
Strus, he was told to shoot a 3, I think, and it wasn't there, and he decided to shoot it anyway, and then he shot another 3 and missed it. I personally, that's not how I would have drawn it up. I would have given it to Lowry. Like, I don't know what I would have done, but I don't think I would have given it to Strus from 5 feet behind the line at least.
And just standing still. Like,
Yeah.
there wasn't much movement.
Pick set. There wasn't anything there. It was just shoot the ball once you get it. And I don't necessarily agree with that.
I mean, that's the situational basketball that coaches pride themselves on, and if you can get it done, you get it done. But personally, I agree that Strus 3 was probably the shittiest play ever. And you could have done with 11 seconds. I feel like they could have gotten a off the inbound Jimmy mid-range, and then you press off the inbound. But I mean, with no timeouts left, that's definitely a gamble. So
yeah, with no timeouts left, you'd have to go back and look at that last play because I don't know.
Nobody on the floor was hitting that 3.
Right, but we're saying this. We're not looking at the tape and looking at, maybe there was a play drawn up for Jimmy in the mid range, but that was shut off by the inbounder, the inbound defender, and like options could have been shut off that we weren't paying attention to in the moment and haven't gone back to look at.
I don't know. It looked like it was a 3 all the way.
Yeah, I think it was.
Play that was set up. I
don't disagree with them shooting a 3 because they had no timeouts left and there was 10 seconds left in the game.
That you disagree with,
but it was the 3 and the person who was shooting the 3 that I disagree with.
And I'm saying we're just not looking at the tape, so maybe that was all that was. Like you said, with no timeouts, you have to pass it in. Maybe that was the only option, and Max got it and just said, "I'm gonna shoot this bitch."
Fuck it.
Yeah. So we kind of all agree on that. There's not much, in the end, doesn't really have too much of an effect, but still sucks for the Heat.
Yeah.
Let's get on.
Hang on. I didn't get to say my thought on it. You just
really? I thought you.
No, I teed it up for Duve because I knew he wanted to talk about it.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
you have the floor.
Yeah, I will say, Max Strus, that 3, like obviously it hurts. I think it was too close to call where like you can go either way on it because like he probably could have stepped out of bounds. Like it's not like looking at that photo like, and you say like, yeah, he might have stepped out of bounds. However, it doesn't change the fact that the play occurred with 10 minutes left in the third. You don't know what happens either way. Like the Heat have a lot of time to come back from that, like in their mind, blown call. Like, but it also works either way. Like the Celtics also might be playing differently now that they have those 3 points. But I'm looking at what happened after. Like, it looks like the Celtics went on like a little like 7-0 run right after he made the 3 anyway, knowing that he made the 3. So like you really can't say either way. Like the game outcome is completely different whether he makes that 3 or not. Like you can, like they lost by 4 anyway, so that 3 didn't make a difference. But like you can't say like, oh, what if they were only down by 1 when Jimmy had the ball in his hands? Like that, you don't know that would have been the case still. That's what I got to say about that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I don't think that 3 necessarily changed the outcome of the game. But I don't like the fact that they can go back and take that 3 away a few minutes later. Like referees make wrong calls all the time and they don't review them ever. But this specific type of foul call this specific type of call that a player stepped out of bounds when he was shooting the ball and they change it
now
much later. I don't agree with that.
Those are the only type of calls that I think that they can review. Like a call like a foot on the line 3, foot on the line out of bounds, like shot clock violation, things that result in a dead ball anyway, so that they can check them in a timeout. Now I don't know for sure because I didn't get back in time for the start of the third quarter. Like I came in after like the play was already taken away. But there's a decent chance that the referees signaled like we'll
like
take a look at that.
Yeah.
Like we'll take a look
I
at
didn't see
that
that part
in the
either.
moment.
In the moment.
Yeah.
If
like-
they did that, totally fine. Because I've seen that with like check if his foot was on the line for 2 or 3. But if they didn't signal anything and the guys in Secaucus were just like, hey, yo, that doesn't count. And then 3 minutes later they take it off. I don't like that.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. At the end of the day, like we don't know what would have happened. Like the game changes both way. Like either way, like you can make the argument like either
Yeah.
way.
I don't think that 3 made a difference.
But at the end of the day, that 3 didn't make a difference. Like that's not the reason they lost. And like Heat fans can't pretend like it was. Like
right.
Yeah, you had the perfect point, and that, you know, the end of the day, when it comes down to the closing seconds, the score is completely different. Made 3 or not, it's not, it's not the same outcome every single time. It's going to be completely different because you're doing the game all over again. If you're saying,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't like
I
how
kinda
they handled the situation though.
What'd you say?
I don't like how they handled that situation.
Yeah, that's what
like,
Jack was saying too. Like,
Yeah, I think you should be allowed to go back and reassess fouls. You know how they do that? Like say like, oh, this foul wasn't on Bam, it was actually on Lowry. They go back and just change the personal foul. But to go back and actually change the score after the score's been changed, you know what I'm saying? Like take back a bucket from multiple possessions earlier. That doesn't seem right to me. Like,
I mean,
well, that happens.
that
It's
happens.
more the
Like,
communication.
it's usually
the
changing a 3 to a
communication
2 or a
that's
2 to a 3 is
yeah, that's
usually
what
how it
it's
works.
2 to a
No,
3,
but
but it's not like a whole bucket goes away.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes they
yeah,
do. Like
yeah.
if they call a shot clock violation on the floor, so it's a dead ball anyway.
They
and then
review
go
that right
back.
after though.
No, they don't.
Shot
Not
clock
always,
violations,
and
yes,
Not
they do.
always.
and not always, and also either way, the point is that the issue, and maybe you have more of an issue with just the taking away clearly, but like the issue we have is the communication. Just tell us that you're
That's
going to
what
look
I'm
at it.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
well,
I think
yeah.
And they
handled it
might
wrong.
they might have made a signal on the
Fans'
floor that
eyes.
said
Yeah.
we're going to review that at the timeout, because like that's what they do. Like they're not going to stop the game to review it, but at the timeout they're going to say, did we miss that there? Did we make the right call? Because like that's the whole thing is like pace of play. Like they don't want to take away like the game.
Okay.
Like they don't want an
Okay.
11-minute review. Like
That's fair. But
during a
that-
timeout,
the
like
Heat
they're not
should
playing
be able
anyway.
to challenge that, right?
It wouldn't matter. The same call would happen. It's the refs making the call. Like if they challenge it, like I don't know if out of bounds is reviewable. So I don't know if they had the opportunity to review it or challenge it afterwards, and they did not give them that opportunity, or it was already reviewed, so you can't challenge a reviewed call. I think that was a thing last year. I remember that now that I'm saying that out loud. That was definitely a thing last year. You can't challenge an already reviewed call.
Yeah.
So
I'm just saying
Speaking,
from a Heat's perspective, a Heat fan, that could have been handled way differently and better.
Yeah.
The communication was off, and I'm agreeing with that. That's
Yeah.
Eric
I-
Spoelstra said that.
And
Spoelstra said that after
I
the
don't
game.
think it was clear and obvious that he was in bounds. I don't think it was clear and obvious he was out of bounds, but I don't think it was clear and obvious he was out of bounds either.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There
Um,
wasn't conclusive evidence that he was out. So how
Unless
can-
there was an angle we didn't see. Unless there was an angle they saw that we didn't see.
apparently there was
Which
an angle that we didn't see.
That's
I'm gonna be
wild.
honest. I don't think there's too much to this Max Strus 3.
like we said, at
Shub,
the end of the day, it didn't matter.
Yeah, Shub, if you don't mind, I kind of want to intro this
Yeah,
one.
go ahead.
We got into a way more heated argument about this last night in the group chat. A few seconds left on the 12
There's
seconds left on the shot clock.
17.
With the jail. No,
Thank
is
you.
this the Jaylen Brown shit first that you're talking about, or
We can go in order. We can order. So
it
Jaylen
happened
Brown,
right after that.
So
It was like
right
it was like a
after Jaylen
minute
Brown,
left.
Yeah, no. With the Jimmy Butler shot,
It's like
What?
40
50 seconds.
seconds left.
50 seconds.
With
50
Jimmy
seconds.
Butler's pull-up 3, there was 20
That was-
seconds left.
There was like
Yeah,
20
it's like
seconds.
17.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, was it? Oh,
Yeah,
I'm thinking
yeah.
of the
So,
first-
like, with-
I'm thinking of the
Because
first.
they immediately
my bad,
fouled,
my
and
bad, my
then
bad.
With basically a shot clock
yeah.
left in the game, Jimmy Butler on a fast break with Marcus Smart still on the
There
Miami
was
Heat's
no
free
shot
throw
clock.
line
There was no shot clock. He could have held it
with a
Yeah.
shot clock left.
It was
in
like
the
20
game,
seconds. It
with
was
a
20
shot
seconds.
clock left.
You have to
as in
say that.
20
He got
seconds.
the ball with 20 seconds left.
Okay,
on a fast break.
sorry, no shot clock, whatever. He's going up with Marcus Smart still on Miami's free throw line.
Mm-hmm.
You have a 4-on-5 with 20 seconds left, and Jimmy's instant decision is to immediately, as soon as he gets 5 feet within the 3-point line, to pull up and shoot that thing.
It was an open
And he
three.
bricks. And yes, it was an open 3, but it's Jimmy Butler. And you have 20 seconds left, and you need to make a decision. And to Shub, Mindy, and I, we believed that the best decision was either drive at Horford and hope for a foul or make, a make.
That was the
Or
best decision.
Pass out and make him scramble on the fast break.
Wait.
Duval, on the other hand, no
Wait,
matter
wait.
how much he
Can I
tries
just
to
say something?
edit this, wanted Jimmy to call a timeout in that
Yes.
situation.
Can I just say
and
something?
draw up a last-second shot.
I have the photo up. It was a 3-on-3 fast break. Jimmy had Al Horford on him, guarding him. To his right, he had Max Strus in the corner, tightly guarded by Jason Tatum. To his left, on the wing, he had Oladipo with a sagged off Jaylen Brown. So in this photo,
And who's
he's
in his
pulling up with 17.9. He's right on the 3-point line. Horford is contesting at the elbow. That's all I'm gonna say. So that's the paint the picture. You said 4-on-5 fast break.
It was not a
3-on-3.
4-on-5. Yeah, I knew that.
Okay.
3-on-3.
Where were where are who else is on the floor? Where's
Everyone else is in the backcourt, still coming up. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a fast
At
break.
least
Yeah, it was
behind
a
Jimmy.
true
but no one was
fast break.
that but no one was
No.
that far behind him.
They were
Yeah,
at least
no,
behind
they
Jimmy.
were.
They were
They
still
were.
at half court at least.
Yeah,
at least
They were.
So they have the timeout, and Jimmy Butler, this is his quote. My thought process was go for the win. My teammates liked the shot that I took, so I'm living with it.
I don't hate the shot. And Jimmy was the guy to take a shot on that last possession, whether it was driving or pulling up. And his team lives with it, so I don't have a huge problem with it. If I'm the coach, I like driving because they're down by 2. But it's just the heat of the game, and they were in transition. So I don't think they should have called a timeout. So I think either you drive or you shoot it. I don't think passing it to somebody else would have been a good idea.
Oh, and you've gotten 3 stops on Boston in a row,
Yeah,
which I don't know if you've done this entire series.
I think I'm looking at the same photo that Duval was looking at, or at least it's a similar one. Like he's got like Strus and Tatum. That's not an option. He's not passing it to Strus unless Strus like makes some miraculous cut. Yeah, I'm looking at.
Well, yeah,
those
I
are
need
the
to
same
see
photo.
who's trailing him because
There's no
you pick-
trailers. They're not
There's
in the
none,
play.
Doug.
They're not in the
None.
play. They're not in the play.
It was a fast break.
They're
They
not
had to be.
relevant. Like they're literally not relevant.
Check Twitter.
I think Victor Oladipo pulls his defender away from the lane on purpose to try and give and Al Horford is backpedaling. And Jimmy's one of the best drive ISO scorers in the league. Worst case scenario, he's getting fouled.
Yep.
And when you haven't even tied the game, the entire game, you gotta take your tie and just keep riding that momentum. And obviously that would give Boston last possession. But when you're down by one possession with 20 seconds left, you can't call timeout and hold for the last shot. You can't do that. Like,
No. Yeah.
You can call timeout and drop a play, but you can't hold for the last shot. But at the same time, Jimmy was open. And if he made that 3, we're not talking about this right now.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the fact that even if he made that 3, the better decision still would have been to be driving on a backpedaling Al Horford when you're one of the best in the game.
Scott Foster is making sure the foul is called.
Yeah.
Even if he has to call it
He's
from
so
the
out
other
of
side
position.
the court.
He's so out of position, but he's calling a foul.
Yeah.
It's also I don't know. It's just it was a bad shot, or it was a good shot, but a bad decision.
Yeah.
With
And
that,
like
Yeah.
I'm with that. That's tough.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm with the timeout gang. But I originally said hold for final shot, but I want to take that back and
Okay.
still stay with the timeout game.
Yeah, because you can
Okay,
call
but if
timeout.
you're calling a timeout, how much better are you gonna do on that than you did on the other timeout final play you called?
If you're
Well,
calling a
that one
timeout,
was the must 3 with 11 seconds left. You're down.
Either way, how much better are you going to do on an inbounds play where Boston
Well, you're
down by 2 instead of 4?
Exceeds
with more time.
Yeah.
the big reason you don't the only reason the timeout wasn't called was because Jimmy Butler had the ball. Yeah, it was transition, and Jimmy Butler was the one who had the ball in his hands. Like,
and you have momentum.
Say Max Strus grabs that rebound, like
that's timeout every time.
Like, there's a guy somewhat near him. Like, they're calling timeout.
I mean, yeah, you can see in the video Spoelstra is doing the waving because he says, "Get up the court, get up the court," and it's understandable. But I think Jimmy, this could be a reason. I don't know for sure. Obviously, I think Jimmy in this photo that we're looking at sees that he's being forced to his right, and he could go right, but he likes that cross, and then that help defense is there on the left. So I don't know what his thought process was. Probably could have gotten by.
What you mean he's being forced to his right? Just curious.
Al Horford, the way he's
Horford's just backpedaling the whole. Horford's never set.
Yeah, he's not even set. He's actually he's going to contest in this picture. I don't know where you were getting stance from that, but if anything, he's being forced to go right because
that's what I said.
Or if anything, they're just keeping him from driving because Tatum and Brown are both looking at him, not at their defense. You can't tell me they're
keeping him from driving when he's backpedaling like that.
So you can't tell me that Al Horford is set, forcing him.
I'm not saying he's set, but the way he looks right there, he'd rather him go right if he's contesting. Drive. Yeah,
he's contesting.
He's pulling up.
All right. So Jimmy Butler dropped 35 points in 48 minutes. He did not take a break yesterday. Bam played.
What do you think about
minutes. Yeah, I was gonna say
game 6.
Like Jimmy
Game
Butler
6, he played 45.
Yeah,
I think that 3-minute rest was pretty
2
big.
minutes, and that he went 13 of 24, and 1 of 4 from 3, 8 of 11 from the free throw line. Like, you'd probably want he's about 3 missed free throws. You like those back, losing by 4. 13 of 24. I thought a lot of his missed shots were bad shots. Like I was saying, there were a lot of bad shots. He did make some very impressive shots, but Jimmy had 35, Bam had 25, Lowry had 15. No one else had double digits.
Yeah. Everyone else sold.
Yeah, Jimmy did the best he could, and he had to do better.
You could tell he was tired, though.
Yeah, and that's why you probably don't take a jump shot.
Yeah,
you don't have to when you've played 48 minutes. At that point, he had literally played 48 minutes. On the box score, it would say 48 minutes.
One other thing about the end of the Heat's game, while their run was really good in the last 2 to 3 minutes, Jimmy only shot the ball twice in the last 5 minutes, and that was including that transition 3 with 17 seconds left. So I think before this run started, from the 5-minute mark until the 3-minute mark, Jimmy should have had the ball more. Depot was getting a little reckless. He was taking bad shots. He was trying to play some hero ball. And Strus missed a couple threes at the end of the game where maybe somebody else should have had the ball. So it's a little questionable there. Jimmy should have had the ball more. But what can you do in the heat of the game? Nothing. You can't really look back and say you did something wrong in the heat of the moment.
Let me wrap this part up and transition a little bit. I think those last 2 minutes were kind of the epitome of the rest of the game. Jaylen Brown taking that horrible layup, Marcus Smart missing 4 wide open threes and open layups. Jimmy Butler taking that shot, Max Strus taking that horrible shot that he took, and Victor Oladipo missed taking all the shots he took. It was just the epitome of those were the type of shots that they were looking for all game. They weren't falling at the beginning. They weren't falling then. And then Jimmy Butler played his ass off, but once again, the role players were not there, and the king of the role players who doesn't play, Udonis Haslem, was very vocal after game 6, vocal after game 7. Is Udonis what does Udonis Haslem bring to the team if he's not inspiring them like he says he is, or whatever the fuck he does?
Do you remember when Juwan Howard was on the Heat after,
and he didn't every game.
And he was a player, and I don't know, kind of weird, but it worked out. The Heat are kind of the team that needs the roster spot. So, like Juwan Howard, they need to make him an assistant coach. Like, it's as simple as that.
Yeah. I'm looking at him on the bench and like he's taking it harder than like Bam. And I'm like, what is going on? Like is Bam just not into it, or is Udonis Haslem just delusional?
Bam to Detroit ? We'll throw you Hami Diallo and Kelly Olynyk.
2 first.
2028.
2 seconds.
So with the role players, I think Spo should have been playing Caleb Martin. Is there anything you do differently if you're Spo in regards to rotations? He took PJ Tucker out of the second half rotation. Obviously, we only saw 6 minutes of Tyler Hero visibly injured. Gabe Vincent played 15 off the bench. Oladipo played 32 off the bench. Like, are you doing anything different? You throwing in a Duncan? Are you throwing in a Caleb Martin? Throwing in a Dwayne Dedman? Give Bam a break? Like, I think Spo is going to be regretting some of the lineup decisions. But do you guys think like it was like no matter who's out there in regards to role players, like Jimmy's just wouldn't have gotten help no matter what?
When they were really cold in the first and second quarter, we were saying that maybe it's time for Duncan Robinson because Hero was very visibly injured. But in the end of the day, I don't disagree with his strategy of just playing the starters and Depot and a little bit of Vincent for the most of the game. But the one thing I would have done differently is second quarter or end of the first quarter, when nobody's giving you offense, put Duncan Robinson in for 2 to 3 minutes and give him 2 to 3 shots and see if he makes them.
I'd agree. I mean, I didn't like
not that big of a deal.
At the end of the day, I sent you guys a little picture yesterday of a video I was watching from Jimmy High Roller, great stats guy on YouTube. He was showing the crazy stats and crazy things that we've seen so far in the playoffs, and the best performer in the playoffs this year by a mile basically has been Jimmy Butler. I know advanced stats aren't everything, but he's led in every major advanced stat category in the playoffs, which has only been achieved in the past 75 years by, well, just the slight company of LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and I believe the other one is Kareem.
Yeah.
I was going to say with those advanced stats, like I saw Rudy Gobert on there. So like first round people were on there. Is there actually a way that Jokic was not on the top 10 for any of those advanced stats that you sent? Like the king of advanced stats, Jokic was not on.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with sample size.
Like did
like
he
the larger your
qualify?
sample, I think the larger your sample size, the better off you do in some of these. Like value over replacement. No.
Like I was
actually, I don't know.
Every single one of these teams, besides if you're looking at the advanced stats, the second one, the offensive box plus minus, has Ingram and Donovan Mitchell, but every other player at least made it to the second round. So that might be something.
Okay. Like I was
it's just
I'm not
Rudy.
like trying to be a Jokic homer, but like it just seems
no, you're
that like the king of advanced stats in the regular season wouldn't show up on any of those advanced stats. Like
you're absolutely right. And it's also Jimmy does a lot like this might be his own graph. So he might have excluded most players, or I don't know why. I don't know. I really don't know. He didn't explain.
It was just interesting to me. It was just interesting to me. That's something.
It's a fair point. But again, to just go back to the Jimmy Butler thing, like that's just to say, like, it doesn't seem like based off of that, if you were to add really anybody that the Heat have, especially the ones that they weren't playing, that it would make much of a difference, especially in helping Jimmy Butler with the load.
Yeah. I think Duncan Robinson should have gone in there. I said Caleb Martin. I think Caleb Martin's the best defender out of their perimeter shooters. And I think they
100%.
needed perimeter defending. So I would have gotten him in there. And I don't know. I think Bam was kind of non-existent in the second half. I think he was tired. I think he was showing his tiredness. I would have either put PJ Tucker back in there or given Dwayne Dedman or Yurtseven 4 minutes, like 3 minutes. Like just give Bam that
Just
break
try it out.
that he
PJ was
needs.
so terrible.
So yeah. Last question with Boston, Miami. This is something that kind of goes with the sloppiness of the game. Did Boston play well or just do enough and outplay the Heat, if that makes sense? Like, did they play well to win the series or just did enough to outplay the Heat in the series?
So one quick, last stat thing on Boston, Miami. I was curious about the shooting because you talked a lot about the shooting. So I just went to go look at the shooting efficiency numbers from Boston in the playoffs versus in the regular season. And I just looked at drive points, catch and shoot points, and pull-up points, because that's what NBA.com has on their efficiency stats. Drive points for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, barely any difference. Catch and shoot points, -2 for Jason Tatum, -11% in the regular season. So not, a huge difference in points, but shot a lot better on catch and shoot in the playoffs, actually, than he did in the regular season. And then for pull-up points, no difference at all. And percentages barely changed. So just to Shub and Mindy and Deuce's point, saying that, the series was unentertaining purely based off of like shot selection or the ability to make shots.
I was saying that.
I'm saying to their point. There wasn't a huge difference in the stars of Boston making their shots versus missing them versus the regular season. So it's not like there was this huge drop off. There was definitely a drop off, but not a huge one in the playoffs.
I mean, so it's a team game. Like, obviously Jimmy was the best player in the series.
No. I'm more just saying, to the point.
No, but I'm saying that. Well, that's my question. Like, but like at the end of the day, it's a team game. Like, Jimmy can only do so much. Tatum and Brown can only do so much. So, like, do you think Boston is proud of how they played? Like, they coming out
They're
of
in the finals.
We just won the finals.
I think it was a little bit of both. Like, they outplayed the Heat and played well at the same time because injuries were there. Al Horford missed a game this series, right? Or was that against?
Yeah, game one.
He missed game one. Smart and Robert Williams have been game time decision every single game. Hero's been injured the whole series.
He's been.
So
when he was playing, he was injured.
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. They outplayed them given the circumstances, but with their own injuries, Boston, they played fine. Derek White stepped up. Al Horford was playing great defense. Robert Williams had a couple good games, and they got it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I'll just say, I don't want to sound like that guy who's not giving Celtics their flowers, because like Mindy just said, they played well under the circumstances, but we just went on like a 20-minute rant on the Heat and the role players. And basically we said if Jimmy and Bam had any help, they probably win this series. So, I mean, to say the Celtics played phenomenal is just outrageous.
Yeah.
They played well enough.
That's what I was saying. I agree with you.
Obviously, we know that's not going to cut it for the finals, but they have a little time off till Thursday. It's not a lot, but it's more than they've been getting.
Yep.
They're going to fly to San Fran or wherever they're located out there for Golden State. They're gonna get some rest, get some practice in.
Well,
hopefully,
they got home floor, don't they?
No.
Yeah,
Golden State
the
does.
Warriors do.
No.
Golden State.
Yeah.
Why?
Golden State does.
Because
Golden
the
State
West
wins.
everyone in the West has better records than everyone in the
really?
East.
Yeah.
Oh,
The Heat would have had
Overall records.
Okay. I didn't know it went by overall.
Yeah, just to finish my point, the Celtics played well enough to get out, and kudos to them. I mean, they have grown as a team, and flowers to Tatum. I mean, he's really shouldered a lot of this weight. So, I mean, he's got a lot of grit, and he deserved that Eastern Conference Finals MVP, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, I mean, good luck to them. I still got Warriors in 5, though.
All right. Well, let's get right into the finals predictions. And we'll start off with what you were talking about, the time off. The Warriors will have had a week off while the Celtics would have 4 days off. This kind of goes hand in hand. The injuries heading in, this is officially our finals prediction, finals preview segment of the podcast. So the injuries heading in from both sides. Boston is obviously dealing with Marcus Smart's ankle sprain. Jason Tatum is dealing with that shoulder thing that he missed a little bit of time out of game 4 with. I believe it was game 4, game 5. And then Robert Williams has been dealing with the remnants of his torn meniscus the entire playoffs that he's been healthy. And then the Warriors are dealing with Gary Payton II with his elbow injury, Iguodala with his back injury, and Otto Porter. I don't remember what Otto Porter is dealing with, but he's also injured. So this time off, how much does it benefit each team? And obviously the Warriors appreciate the time to rest, but is it too much time off? Do you guys believe that, they kind of lose their momentum a little bit?
I mentioned this earlier or last week, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think that if there's a team that's not if the team that time off will not matter for is the Warriors, because they've been here before so many times, and they're not going to be stressing about the fact that they have the finals coming up. They're going to get ready. They're going to get healthy, and they'll be prepared. So I think if anything, honestly, I don't think Boston I think they'll benefit from the time off too. I think both teams will be fine, and neither of them will lose the momentum they have going into the finals. I think it's more important for Boston this time off, because while Golden State has more injuries with Gary Payton, Iguodala, and Otto Porter, the injuries to Marcus Smart and Robert Williams are much more important to get fixed and get healed up. So I think both teams will be fine, but the Celtics definitely benefit more from this.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with your first point in the fact that it doesn't really phase the Warriors, because they've been here so often. They have this scheduled down. I'm sure they know what they're doing every single day this week. They already did everything last week that they needed to do. So that's just a testament to their experience. And the Celtics, this is the first time their group has been here in this situation. So they might not have the entire scheduling down, what to do every day coming into these games. That might be a factor here. But yeah, I mean, this probably means more for the Celtics, barring that they had less time to rest. But the Warriors, I mean, it's the Warriors, and they get the first 2 at home. I mean, they don't even have to travel right now, so they're big chilling. And now they're just waiting on Gary Payton, Otto, like you said, they're just letting these guys rest up at home. So that's even better.
Facts.
Yeah. I don't think there's too much of a debate or anything here. It's just, I think it benefits both teams very well. They have injuries that need to mend, and this is the time, that all teams normally are grateful to have. It just so happens that we're heading into the finals. I don't have too much to say on the time off.
Yeah, I think the Warriors, they might come out of game 1 a little slow. I think a week off, especially the game you played last Thursday, was not very intense. Like Steph and Clay, they didn't play that much. I think obviously they're basketball players, they stay in shape, they can turn it on and off. But I think they might come out a little bit slower than Boston. I think Boston's, coming off this game 7 gritty series, they're gonna obviously they're gonna appreciate the rest, but I think they might come out a little bit stronger in game 1, and I think that's the biggest thing that the rest has to do. Let's talk about the keys to winning a little bit.
Really quick. You just made me think. let's also be aware of, or watch out for mistaking coming out slow versus Boston just being a little bit more sporadic and kind of ultra aggressive
I said
versus the Warriors being
Boston's
a
going to
lot
come out.
more.
I think it kind of goes both ways. I think I said Boston's going to come out strong, and I think Golden State,
No, I'm,
as a
but I
result,
don't
might be
think
a little bit slower. I think they
I
are.
don't think it's going to be slower. I think they're just going to be what they are. I think they're just going to come off very, slightly slower compared to Boston because they're under control more. Come off. I don't think they're going to be slower because
More
I feel
methodical.
whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, more methodical rather than slow.
Okay.
I think Boston is going to come out trying to just like beat the shit out of the Warriors.
Yeah. All right. That's fair.
Where the Warriors are just going to try to dismantle. Yeah.
With the Warriors, the Warriors propose a lot of lineup mismatches for their opponents. They're also one of the best defensive teams in the league. So if you're Boston, you got your, 7.5 man rotation. I think it's really interesting. I don't know. I don't even know if you guys can name, like, there's 3 guys on here that like just have no idea they're on the Celtics bench. In Juwan Morgan, Luke Cornett, and Malik Fitz.
Luke Cornett was one that I saw like 2 weeks ago or whatever, where I was just like,
yeah,
how did you get here?
And then of course Sauce Castillo, but like we all know Sauce Castillo is on the Celtics.
And shouts out Sam Hauser.
Yeah, Sammy Hauser, Joey Hauser's brother. But if you're the Celtics, are you rolling with the same lineup that you did against the Heat? Or are you changing the rotation? Like, are you
talking about the starting lineup?
48 minutes? I'm talking about your whole rotation. They already have a 7-man rotation.
Okay.
Are you changing that? Are you changing that, or are you changing like who closes, who opens? Or do you just stick with what worked?
I think the Celtics are going to have to do a lot of. Well, I like the 7-man rotation. You maybe give Pritchard some minutes if someone's in foul trouble or you need someone to shoot threes, but I think the Celtics kind of just have to match Golden State's lineups a lot. Like I said, with the death lineup, you have Horford and you have Derek White in the game with Smart and Tatum and Brown. And you just kind of match what the Warriors are putting out there, and you put your best defensive lineup for each of these lineups that the Warriors run.
I think I kind of disagree. I mean, this is an interesting question because if the Celtics start changing up now, like all these rotations, and I think that's kind of playing into what the Warriors want them to do. And I think if they stick to what they know and their system of play, that will benefit them more than trying to match up defensively. I mean that's probably just my opinion here, but I think just switching up everything right now, right before the finals, wouldn't be the best idea. I mean, yeah, I think the Celtics would be hurting themselves more than helping themselves if they just start to overthink everything right now.
It's facts. I agree.
With all this time off, though, they're definitely doing that.
Yeah.
100%.
I wouldn't call scheming and game planning overthinking. I think.
No, I'm just talking lineups. Just lineups.
But I don't think they're
all the time.
I think when they're prepping for these series, they're not taking the exact lineup combinations as impactful as simply just looking at like individual matchups or combined matchups. Like, I don't know. I think, okay, when it comes down to it, what I'm looking at when I'm going into a series, and I'm obviously not a coach or a GM or whatever, but when I'm going into a series, I'm looking at the games that we've played against this team and how we've performed against teams like it in the playoffs or in similar situations. Boston hasn't played a team with, this many offensive threats in the playoffs. Brooklyn, you can kind of count, but it's different. It's definitely different with Steph Curry versus Kevin Durant. they were efficient against Kevin Durant. So they've been able to prove 3 times that they're efficient against superstars. The issue is this is an entirely different offense than you've seen from any of those other teams. So looking at lineups, what I'm trying to say is looking at lineups, that you run in the playoffs, I wouldn't be as, intent on comparing the lineups, then versus what we're gonna do now. I'm just
My thing
really
is when you have 3 guards in with someone's calling me, my bad. When you have a lineup in with 3 guards, you have to have 3 guards in that can guard them. I'm not saying Tatum can't guard like Clay, but I think you have to match up defensively the best that you can. Sorry, my allergies are really bad right now. But I don't think you can put like Tatum on Clay and then Horford on Wiggins. Like you have to have a lineup out there that can match the intensity defensively.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I see what Doug's saying also. But all I'm trying to say is I don't think the Celtics should put themselves in a position to be uncomfortable in the future and have to let Ime Udoka on the fly make rotations. And I don't know. I think they're still young, and this is the group's first time here. Like, you want them as comfortable as possible versus this experienced team. So yeah,
before we move
Shane.
on, so I'll give my 2 cents on it, and then we'll go to the Warriors and their potential lineups. But I don't think you're really necessarily changing the personnel that plays. I think the only person who did not get run that potentially might get run is a Daniel Tice on Kevon Looney if they want to do something like that, like Daniel Tice, veteran, whatever. But you look at guys like Marcus Smart, who's the defensive player of the year. He's going to have to play 45 minutes. And I know he's injured, and I know that's difficult. He's going to have to. Someone like Al Horford might not be in it at the end of the game. You're going to see if Andre Iguodala is healthy, you might see Andre Iguodala closing at center. And if that's the case, you can get away with putting, Grant Williams at center. And I was going to say Grant Williams and Derek White. Derek White's defensive ability is going to be so important every time he's on the floor. And with the Warriors' elite 3-point shooting, Grant Williams has to respond. He's their best 3-point shooter off the bench. He's really their only 3-point shooter off the bench. No disrespect to Derek White. Pritchard. And if Pritchard gets in the game, he has to defend. And so I don't really think you're changing the personnel, but those minutes that the guys are playing just become so much more important when you're playing these guys. Like, if you're getting minutes, you have to be in and playing 100%. And the guys I think Robert Williams and Al Horford are going to get their minutes cut into a lot, because I just don't see where Robert Williams fits in. Defensive-minded center, rim protector, just doesn't really work against the Warriors unless Kevon Looney's in, because Draymond Green doesn't hang out in the paint, and you can put a smaller guy on Draymond Green. Just doesn't work out. So I think you're going to see a lot of guys playing 44 minutes plus, and I think Al Horford is not going to be one of them, and I think Robert Williams is going to get matched up with Kevon Looney, and that's about all we'll see of him.
2 quick things. First, crazy that 2 years ago or whatever it was when they drafted Aaron Nesmith. I'm just thinking about you when you said the only shooter they have off the bench is Grant Williams, and they drafted Aaron Nesmith entirely just to be a shooter.
You may didn't draft him.
Just weird. But to the other part, still on lineups. If you're Boston and you're running against the 2 top lineups, so give me your Boston lineups, your Boston 5-man lineups in response to these 2. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson.
We have to talk about the Warriors, what we think the Warriors' best rotation will be for the Celtics, and that's kind of what going into now. That was going to be the next topic that I had on the outline is, if you're the Warriors, you obviously have a surplus of guys you can play, and it's impossible to predict what Steve Kerr is going to roll out there on any given game, like not just series, any given game. Who are you? And if we're like thinking in terms of Steve Kerr going in Steve Kerr's mind, we know who Boston is going to play. They have 7 guys. Maybe a Peyton Pritchard shows up on occasion. We know who they're going to play. So if you're the Warriors, how deep do you make your rotation and who's in it?
So what I was about to say was
Yeah.
the 5-man combinations from the playoffs from the Warriors. And I was just going to say the top 2 with the most minutes, and it's at 105 and 94. So it's a good sample size to make a prediction off of what they would run. Their most common lineup at 105 minutes was Steph, Clay, Wiggs, Draymond, and Kevon. That's at 105 minutes, and that was plus 19 points. 94 minutes with, again, plus 19 points is Steph, Poole, Clay, Wiggs, Draymond.
All right.
So those being so close.
With all due respect, the Steve Kerr could throw it all out the window.
No. I'm complete that with those being so close, even though Steve Kerr, like you said, could completely throw it out the window and do something different, since that's what we have to go off of, and we're assuming it would be some combination of those two, what would you guys think the starting lineups coming into game 1 will be for the finals?
They're the same.
And how does that match up?
They're the same. I think the Warriors are running the same starting 5 with Poole off the bench, and the Celtics are running the same starting 5.
So when you
it's about the bench players, that's what we're talking about, and potentially guys that
and how they
play, but not as much as they maybe did in the previous series. That's kind of what I was asking.
How they plug in and input them as the game goes on, right?
We know that Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green are going to be
right.
playing.
So
that's not the discussion,
right? But my question is, when you have these starting lineups, how do they match up coming into the beginning of the game, and how do you adjust? I know it's repeating the question, but like,
that's what I was saying.
Based off of those starting lineups, what is the first adjustment? What are the adjustments that you see are the biggest things that you have to
I
make?
said it when I was talking about the Celtics. I said you're not going to see the minutes from Rob Williams and Al Horford. I said
right,
that.
For the Warriors.
But that now we have to. But we obviously know who the starting 5 for the Warriors are. We know 6 guys, but you have to talk about who you think is going to be in there for the Warriors. Because
right. Tell me. So if I'm the Warriors, I'm supplementing Clay a lot in this series. I'm just not. I'm definitely, this is probably going to end up being a really cold take, but I'm just not been confident in Clay's efficiency throughout this playoff run. I just don't feel like, this is going to be such a cold take. I don't feel like giving Clay the ball at, in the fourth quarter, clutch time, need a shot is going to be the best decision to make. And I feel like there will be a lot of times when they might need to put in a more defensive oriented lineup, which might have to take out Clay. I don't know.
So you're saying like
who's
put in
coming off the bench? You haven't said a single name. All you've said is Kevon Looney and Jordan Poole. We know they're playing alongside the other All-Stars.
He's saying Gary Payton comes in.
I'm saying, it's just weird because I don't know if Gary Payton's, we don't know when Gary Payton is coming back. So I'm trying to think of who else would be that guy.
There's Nemanja Bjelica,
absolutely
Otto Porter,
That's not who
Andre Iguodala, Jonathan Kuminga, Damian Lee. Are those guys cracking the rotation? I'll start off because I don't think you understand like what I'm saying. I think the Warriors are going to run a 9 or 10 man rotation. I think they're going to use their depth to their advantage than the fact that the Celtics don't have any, and they're going to always have fresh legs. And I think if Otto Porter's healthy, I think he's in the rotation. And I think if Andre Iguodala is healthy, he's in the rotation. And Gary Payton, I don't think this series is as important for him. Like I think he gives very good individual defense, and he might come in for like 6-7 minutes, maybe like if like they're struggling on defense mightily. But I think you're looking at guys like the veterans. You're not going to see Kuminga. You're not going to see Lee, JTA, Moody. Like Bjelica as like a stretch 5. You might see that genuinely. Like that's where I'm thinking. I think they're running a 10-man rotation.
10-man.
Yeah.
But we're a 10-man rotation, and we're not seeing Moody, Kuminga, Lee,
or JTA. So
then you have the starting 5. You have starting 5 with Poole.
Starting 5, Poole 6.
Iguodala,
Gary,
Gary,
Payton,
No. You can't. You
Bielitsa
can't. Are we? So we're
Porter.
including people who are
and
injured.
Porter.
Bielitsa. Yeah, I the only question mark that I think, I don't know about game one, but Peyton is coming back. The only Porter is coming back. Iguodala is the only question mark, and I think they really want Iguodala. I really think
I want Iguodala.
They do. Like the presence that Iguodala gives.
He's taking the shot with the
to your
game
question,
on the line.
Dove. Yeah, I think the Warriors are going to be the ones that are going to dictate the Celtics on who they have to match with. I don't think the Celtics are going to dictate who the Warriors have to match with.
Is that how I phrased it?
Kind of.
Oops. Yeah. Well, you get. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Because
clearly did
the
not
Celt-
understand what
because
you
the
were
Celtics-
saying before.
The
That's my bad,
Celtics,
but you
yeah,
get
the
what I was
Celtics
saying.
don't have someone else they can deploy. Like the Warriors do. The Celtics, you know exactly the rotation the Celtics are coming out with. It's just about managing how many minutes those guys are playing.
That was my point. Like, I don't want the Celtics to get uncomfortable because they're being dictated in these lineups. I mean, that probably means they're going to have to throw a Grant Williams at a center at some point.
I think they will.
And I don't know if he's comfortable with that. I don't know if he's ever ran that in his
It's not
system.
something the Celtics do very often.
Exactly. So that might rattle his cage. And he's a very young guy. He's like, I mean, first finals for him.
He's like 26,
That's young.
25,
What
26.
is it, like his third season?
I think that's young.
It's his third-
you're
I'm not
calling
saying it's
that,
not
like,
young.
He's
I'm not saying
23
it's
years
not
old.
young. It's
23.
23.
Come on.
Yep.
That's
Man,
young.
that's crazy.
He was just at
I thought he
Tennessee
was
like
a-
a few years
Yeah,
ago.
this
no?
is
I
his
thought it was
third
a
season.
Admiral
4
Schofield.
4-year player.
Yes, sir. Him and Admiral were
No, I think he was
some
3.
dogs.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, the Celtics, they can't get in their own head right now with these days off because they're gonna start to overthink it and start to come up with some wacky ass lineups that they might think is good, but it's just gonna make their players uncomfortable. And that's what they should be focusing on, is putting Tatum, putting Brown, and putting Horford in the best scenarios possible. And anything else you can live with.
Yeah. I think if Draymond is at center, then Grant Williams won't really have that tough of a time at center. Because I think that they'll stretch
I don't think
everyone on the
Draymond,
perimeter.
Draymond wouldn't be guarding Grant Williams on the other side, and Draymond's not the toughest to defend.
Yeah, you don't.
defensively.
Draymond
Yeah.
or Grant Williams wouldn't necessarily be guarding Draymond. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, even if he was,
sagging everything.
even if he would,
Yeah.
like you can just sag off of him. and
He's
let him shoot
helping off
threes.
everything.
Yeah, exactly. Like Draymond knows
Yeah.
that too. Draymond plays into that. Like he knows, like I'd rather let Curry shoot a contested 3 than me shoot an open 3. Like he embraces that part of his game.
Yeah, so he's got to be prepared to go over the screens and play off balls, switch. Like they're a fast team on offense. All of those guards know how to run without the ball, and that's going to really test the Celtics. I mean, you can start a Marcus Smart on Curry, but 1 or 2 times down the floor, he's going to call like 3 screens, and then Marcus Smart's going to be guarding Draymond all of a sudden. Like, I don't know. The Warriors know how to dictate the pace and dictate the style of play every time. And that's just because they're so experienced. And like Shub said, I mean, they're going to come, the Celtics are probably going to come out strong because their mindset right now is if we don't come out and dictate the pace, then we're never going to get it back. So
Yeah.
it's
So
a
do
good
you think
mindset to have, but
any last
don't let
thoughts
yourself get uncomfortable.
on the Warriors or Celtics rotations before we kind of wrap this part up?
I'm interested to see how Jordan Poole is going to play because he's been so good in the playoffs and he's been good. He's had some bad games, but overall he's been very good.
Yeah.
And he hasn't seemed to be fazed by this limelight of playing at the highest stages. But now he's at the end-all be-all NBA finals. And I'm interested to see if he's going to step up, if he's going to fall off, because that's definitely going to impact the Warriors a lot.
Yeah. I mean, if he can hold his own defensively, like this could be a very big series for him because like the Celtics don't have enough guys to guard all their lethal shooters. So this has the potential to be another big Jordan Poole series. So yeah, Dove, any last lineup thoughts before we just get into final keys for winning for each team?
Just on that Poole note, he does average 58 touches a game. That's the third most for the Warriors, right behind Dre and Steph, who tied with 50 or 70. But that's a jump from the Clay and Wiggins at 40 something. So yeah, Poole has proven that he is a large part of this system, specifically, really on offense.
Yeah.
But despite, like Mindy said, those few duds in the Mavs series, hopefully, he continues what he did, because we all love some Jordan Poole.
Biggest thing with Jordan Poole, he's just been shooting efficiently. His shot selection's been a lot better than it was in the regular season, not jacking up threes, like waiting for a shot, waiting for the good shot. That's what's been happening. Even in the duds, like he's shooting 50%, like he's shooting 53% on the playoffs. Like, so yeah, he has the potential to be a big key to the Warriors' success. I think we're all taking the Warriors to win this series. So what's the biggest thing the Celtics have to do to win this series? What's their give one number one key, like, for the Celtics to win this series?
Backcourt defense. It's got to be Smart. It's got to be White. It's got to be Jaylen Brown. They've got to all be playing at the same time, and they need to be locked in defensively.
Dove, what's your key to Boston's success?
1 second, I need to.
You need to think.
I was muted, so I'll go.
Thanks, Dove.
I'm gonna agree with Mindy, but I'm also gonna say this game. These games can be won in the trenches, and that's like turnovers, second chance points, offensive rebounds, all those gritty stats that are gritty points. I mean, those little things are gonna add up, and I think if the Celtics can really compile all of that and focus on staying together as a team and playing their offense and not going into the Warriors style of play and falling into that trap, is really going to benefit them long term. So yeah, I mean, it's going to happen in the trenches.
Yeah.
We know we're going to see 3-point shots fly. So
yeah, you go. I'll go.
No, shoot.
Okay, so kind of what you're saying, like they can't determine like how the Warriors play, but they can determine how they play. Like they can slow down the game, they can play their game when they're on offense. I think that's a big key. And then just trying to avoid those runs that the Warriors can go on, like those 9-0 runs in 45 seconds. Like, so that comes with rebounding and limiting turnovers, like you were saying. So yeah, it's just about like playing their game, slowing it down on offense, avoiding the turnovers, like keep the Warriors out of transition, because that's where they're the most deadly.
Yeah, I'm a lot of what I'm going to say is going to shadow most of what you guys said, but I think the main thing the Celtics need to do to honestly keep up with the Warriors is to maintain stability. And what I mean by that is, on defense, find your set, whether it's, I don't think the zone is going to work, but whether it's a zone, whether it's man-to-man, whatever, find it, get comfortable in it, and run it and communicate and be consistent with it every single time on the defensive end. Whether or not you're getting consistent stops, at the bare minimum, play good defense and play physical each time. You don't have to stop them every single time, because it's not going to happen. And the same goes for the offensive side, like you guys said, kind of just controlling the pace and making sure you're not doing some of the things you did in the Celtics series or in the Miami series, like just kind of taking those clueless shots and early shot clock, mistakes.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, the Celtics have an uphill battle. Let's get into the finale of the episode, what we've all been waiting for, our series predictions. I think we all have the Warriors. That's why we're kind of going through Boston's key to successes and not Golden State's. So let's give.
Although, should we do the quick little Golden State just to be,
they're the better team. Like they should win, like on paper. But for the sake of time, I think we just go right into the predictions.
Fair.
So give team, obviously, who you think's going to win, amount of games, finals MVP, losing team's finals MVP, and game one prediction as well. So
Start with game one prediction.
Game one prediction. I think the
Game
Warriors.
one, Thursday night,
Yeah,
9
Thursday night.
o'clock Eastern time. Just letting everybody know who is
Shut
listening. So
Opening odds, Warriors -3.5.
What's the are we getting who are we getting? Which broadcaster? Which broadcasting?
ESPN.
Network?
It's ABC,
It's Breen every time.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
barring
Just
the
to,
his health.
continue to
Yeah.
inform.
All right, so game one prediction. Who do you guys got?
I mean, this is tough.
In San Fran.
I have
Yeah.
Celtics.
Yeah, if Celtics have any chance
Jason
of a
Tatum,
win away,
50 bomb.
it's probably Thursday night. But I'm gonna go Warriors by like 5. Yeah, it'll be close.
I'm going Warriors too. I want to take the Celtics, but it's the Warriors. They're gonna win
Hesitant.
game one.
Hesitant to take the Warriors, I'll say.
Yeah.
And Dove's got the Celtics. I got the Warriors. Warriors -3.5 and the over. Book it.
That's a slammer from Shub.
Okay, so
I don't know what that means.
series prediction now. Who's winning the whole series, and then your finals MVP, and then who's the runner up if the other team would have won. Who's your losing team finals MVP?
I'm gonna go Warriors take it in Boston in 6. Boston gives them a little trouble. 6 games seems like a little bit much for some people's predictions, but I think it goes to 6. I think Boston will take 2. My finals MVP is Draymond Green.
Okay.
Steph will continue his legacy of 0 finals MVPs. Draymond Green will step up, be the facilitator, be the defensive anchor, be the leader of the team. And he's getting his finals MVP. And my runner-up is Jason Tatum. He's going to play well. He's going to get a lot of shots, so he's going to have a lot of points, and he'll be the runner-up.
Duval.
All right, I'll go. I have Warriors in 5 with the Celtics taking game 3 in Boston. And for my MVP, I'm going to go with Curry breaking the curse. I mean, it just makes sense for the league to want to give him one. If he does like 10 points per game, that'll never happen. But if he does like that bad, then he probably won't get it. But my runner up, I mean, I don't see Tatum putting on that show every game. So I think for my guess, it's going to Jaylen Brown for sure. I mean, yeah, I think he's going to come out and have an agenda. So we might see a poster dunk. We might see a 40 bomb, but we're going to see something out of him for sure.
I've got Warriors in, let's do 5, a close 5 though. Like I'm thinking like a score differential of like 3 or 4 throughout the series.
Damn.
Like over those 5 games. So like close games. And I'm thinking like one buzzer beater, maybe an OT here or there. I'd like that. But I kind of agree partially with what you're saying, Duve, about the possible inconsistency of Tatum and maybe Brown popping off. But I think finals MVP is going to be, I'm going to ride with the no Curry again. Let's throw, I should talk Clay earlier. Let's click Clay, a finals MVP. Why not? Couple 20s, maybe a 30 in game 5.
I should have said Clay too. If it's in 6, it's Clay.
Yeah, that's a good. Oh, okay. No. I'm
Clay.
changing to 6. I'm changing to 6 and giving the finals MVP to Clay, because then that would, make more sense for the finals MVP pick. And then on the other side, I'm gonna give it to Jason Tatum for.
Sorry, what was you said? So Warriors in 6.
Warriors. I'm changing it to Warriors in 6, but I still want like a 3 to
Okay.
4, maybe 5-point differential averaged over the series.
I got the Warriors in 5 as well. My first thought was Warriors in 6. Like, I swear to God, like before, like I had this lined up. Warriors in 6, Klay Thompson, Game 6, Finals MVP. I was not ready for you to say Klay Thompson because you were literally shit talking him earlier, saying he's inconsistent. And
No.
and so like I thought I was
You
gonna
wanted
go
him
with
out of
it.
the game.
Yeah, you're like,
I said
spell him out of the
feared.
game.
I said I feared he will be inconsistent.
And you
Pretty
said
sure.
they should.
You
If
said don't
anyone's
give him
getting
minutes.
spelled out, it should be him.
I didn't say don't give him minutes. Again, I said
You said he should be
defensively
spelled out.
he might have to be supplemented. That's it. That's all I said.
Okay, so
So
originally I was gonna go Warriors in 6,
rather
but
have someone
I don't think the Warriors win on the road in Game 6. But I also don't think it's realistic that the Celtics win 3 games in the series to force it to 7. So I'm changing it to Warriors in 5. I think it's a gentleman's sweep. I think Boston wins Game 4 in their home court, and the Warriors close it out in 5. I got Klay Thompson as my Finals MVP because Curry's never going to win it. And I think Klay Thompson is going to have a really good series, genuinely. I think Curry's going to have a good series, but I think Klay is just going to like be vintage in this series. He's going to be the one making the big shots. He's not going to have any duds. It's only 5 games. And then my runner-up on the other side, I think Jaylen Brown is going to be Boston's MVP. I think he's due. I think he's healthy-ish, and I think his defensive prowess will be on display. And I think he's going to be forced to make 3-pointers in this series to respond to Golden State's 3-point ability. And I think he's going to be that guy. He's going to be that guy. So, wow,
I'm with that.
I trust
Quite
him
the
way
episode
more on
today.
his drives, but yeah.
quite the episode today. Longest one probably in history. But this will probably be the only episode we have this week. We'll be back probably after Game 2 or Game 3 of the NBA Finals. But we'll be voicing in our opinions on Twitter most likely about what's going on in the meantime. So make sure to keep up with us on Twitter at HustleNHoops. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, HustleNHoops, rate us 5 stars, all that good stuff. Boys, any last
It was
thoughts?
a pleasure.
Any last thoughts?
Looking forward to a good finals, a competitive finals. And even if it's 5 games, I think it's going to be a good series and we'll have some close games.
I agree.
Looking forward to it.
All I'm saying is off season coming. That means some very exciting things coming soon. That's all I really got my mind on right now.
For those listening, because we do a podcast.
I'm pointing at Cade Cunningham. A picture of Cade
Cunningham.
Yeah, sorry.
All right. And good luck to everyone in the finals. Happy Memorial Day, and we'll see y'all next time. Peace.